Hello. Today we talk about the conflict or confrontation between the United States and China. Uh, what do we find because the conflict started with Trump's era. Actually, U.S. doesn't like the idea. See the second largest economy to threaten the interest of the United States. It's normal to them. United States has enjoyed about 100 years of the dominant, especially after the Russia, former USSR, right? The collapse of former USSR. United States become the only one polar, power in the world. So he want, the open policy and the reform in China was started. I think actually the open policy, even in Chairman Mao's era, people doesn't see anything. See Chairman Mao when talk about the Chairman Mao's era, many people forgot Chairman Mao's era have the nuclear and the hydrogen bomb and the first satellite, right? Human artificial satellite, and also a lot of inventions, industries and also the solution of hunger, right? Like Yuan Longping, the rice. Before the rice, every mu, the production is only like 200-300 kilogram, but Yuan Longping is make it 1,000 kilogram. So that's like five times. So it solved the hunger of the Chinese people. It's during Mao's era, and the total basic industrial chain was established in China, and the complete ownership is belong to the whole people of China, or we call it state owned. So that's the achievement uh, Chairman Mao achieved. Now we have lost, half of the ownership of privatization, and many big, industries are controlled. You know, just like Huawei, right? Huawei, the cell phone, because the chips, embargo of the chips, the Huawei cell phone, defeated, withdraw from the market, right? Many industry has this kind of, this kind of difficulties cannot be solved. Of course, China has their own nowadays developed China's own technology, high tech. Uh, Many people in China regret that we abandoned certain, high tech development just for the case to, to save the investment. But now China has so-called the, GDP, right, and the foreign, uh, the foreign currency, right, especially U.S. dollars. China can do a lot of things with the the economic strength. It has the complete industrial chain. But I noticed that nowadays the export toward Western countries going down, right? Decreased, and but only increased in large volume export is from China to Russia. as everybody knows, in this year, right, Russia has this kind of Ukraine problem, and so the Russia faced the embargo and kicked out from the SWIFT system, so that Russia cannot join the United States led economic global economic development. Uh, uh, so I think we are facing now. The so-called the fourth industrial revolution, first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution. Now it's artificial intelligence, right? It's a competition now. But the hardware part we produce, especially for the chip, which I think China has the teams doing the research now. China still is economically very strong and financially very strong, right? Uh, the export, because the Chinese made products are low tech products, so it has less beneficial to China's economic development in the future. Only since it could give some jobs for the low profile workers and also some profit for the companies involved in the foreign trade. But it's not good for the or not as important as back in the 20 years ago, because back in the 20 years ago, China doesn't have a lot of foreign currency. Now we have a lot, too much. We have problem with that because we have money, foreign currency. We cannot buy, the high tech technology or whatever. Even you want to buy, they don't sell, right? The high tech, they don't sell it to you. So to the high tech part, China has to be on its own. So the Chinese leaders and the Chinese, if there's interest group, I hope we don't have interest group, or the interest group is in line with the people's interest of China. Otherwise, if the interest group's interest is conflict with the interest of the people of China, this is the major problem. So I hope we do admit, we have to admit, we in this stage of the social development, China still has to, maybe, I don't know. I think we could have another road to develop the country of China and lead the way for or set a model for the rest of the world, because the rest of the world, like Africa country, East Asia country, and some European country and Latin American countries, the development is not as good. And China in the past decades, the so-called economic GDP is become second largest. But the quality of this development or this GDP, the composition is not as good as it should be. Now it's the turning point, and we know the U.S. and China is fighting, fighting for very long now. United States noticed because the most advantage China has is the Chinese Communist Party leadership, and it can gather the whole countries together. But China has now no allies or powerful economic good, economic allies, in the Western country, like European Union, right? The members of European Union. However, the members of European Union and the United States are depend on the Chinese made low tech products, so keep the price low in their domestic market. Is that good for China? To now, I think only thing good for China is to provide so-called the jobs for the low, the unskilled worker in China. It's not good for the strength of the whole China, the power. The power China needs to accumulate is the high tech, and as well as the military and the financial. If China still want to competing in the global financial market, so the financial market that China needs to be self dependent. It is hard to join the existing international financial system, which is very sophisticated and very back in the back. They said no invisible hand. No, we can see the hand. It's manipulated by the big money, no matter old or new. China has some rich people. They represent in certain degree some American interest. This is a problem because American interest is definitely not the interest of China. So it's a conflict because China cannot uh, go in on development as the past 20 decades, depend on the labor intensive industries. So it has to change, like internet, right? Like AI technology, right? Like cell phone, mobile, and wearable, like new tech. For example, the healthcare. 80% and 90% of the biomedical companies are American companies. This is a huge market. That's we know capitalism creates disease, right? So many diseases are created by the certain industries, and a lot of people are facing depression. The rate is half of the world population are in some degree in depression. They depressed. People depressed because too much pressure by what? By financial burden. I have mentioned like our food is very small portion of our expenditure, daily expenditures. We have to pay house, mortgage, rent, right? We have to pay car insurance. We have to pay the internet. We have to pay. Everybody in the house has or one or two, even more cell phone. That's add up. It's a lot of money, right? So it is a trick. I mean, China do not need to develop like this. If China goes to, we can, we can keep like Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Tianjin, certain big cities, financially, developed uh, area, or right, or even Hainan. Hong Kong, we keep this Hong Kong as a traditional route to the Western world, right? But China has already too many cities can replace Hong Kong's position. Many capitalists in China, I mean, they depend on Chinese market. They want to create, capitalism in China. We see we see how the capitalist country or the Western country, the rich guy, how they become rich. For example, the real estate industry market. The real estate industry market is like financialized, become so-called. It's not a place to live anymore. It's a kind of a wealth management products, which is not good because uh, like now it's a bubble, right? Bubble. Real estate bubble is big, huge in China, and if the elite or the elite group who control the Chinese market economy, they do not change the method of methodology of the economic development pattern. They want drive all the people from the countryside to become called urbanization, to come to the city, which I believe, I trust is not a very good. I think it's a bad choice. I think we should keep the original native natural economic development. They live for 1,000 years. Why you change it? Because nowadays, the real estate is a burden toward the Shanghai people, Beijing people. So many people, over billion, over hundreds of millions of people live in debt, heavy debts. The wife and husband, the money, all the savings, and the wife's parents, or the savings, plus the husband parents' savings to buy a house in those cities, which is, I mean, that's robbery. You rob the life savings for all these 6 adults just for a house. That's evil. Same thing here in the United States, but not as, because in United States, Canada, because the people in this country, in Canada, they know the real estate is some kind of a trap, right? You buy a house, you have to pay so much, like I do. So many people just live in a car. They park the car in certain place and just stay there. They don't want a house. So the most expenditure is the house. You buy a house, you pay tax, you pay some maintenance, so many expenditures. Just like you own a company, you need to pay tax, salary. Every day it's created a burden to average common people. Therefore, they work and they become poor because the expenditure is high, too high. So it goes to nowhere. It goes to nowhere. United States and say G7 countries, they are facing this kind of difficulties, dilemma. If they abandon the capitalism, they will offend those in power, the rich guys. But why rich guy create a problem for their own country? They want to pass this kind of crisis to other countries. Therefore, there's wars, right? There are wars. But now we have a biggest war between Russia and Ukraine that's recently happening. It would last maybe another year, even another couple of years, even more, right? Even it expand to Asia. They try to drive China into a regional war. It is testing the wisdom of the Chinese leaders and the people. China has has experienced Mao Zedong era, have been, in 1949 is the birth of China, the People's Republic of China. The birth means the revolutionary from the poor people, and the poor people get educated, and they educated through the ideology. We all believe that from bottom, from heart, because we know that everybody in China has been taught philosophy. We think philosophically in the 30 years, and now until now, everybody, not only like a red guard, no, every Chinese people in the mainland China, they know philosophy. So they think philosophically, they think the way Chairman Mao bring to them. Before 90%, before 1949, 90% of Chinese are illiterate. They don't even know how to write their name. Now they 20 million, 10 million, university level and higher education graduates every year. Over like 300 million Chinese are above university level, bachelor level. That's an educated bunch of people. They don't only know the technique, how to work, they know how to think. They know how to analyze the world. That's a liberation. Because before 1949, over thousands of years, 90% of the Chinese people do not think. They don't even read. That's the change China has. That's the foundation of the China if it becomes a power of the world, because of the liberation and freedom of the Chinese people enjoyed. That's what I have been there. I know that. Whatever you've been taught are wrong. You better listen to me. Because that's truth. Dictatorship, whatever, people in China know that, right? Because of the constitution, because of the revolution, because of the liberation of the people. They used to be a servant, slave. 90% of the Chinese people was a slave, servant. Even more of the Chinese people are slave servants in the old China. Now, during Mao's era, the Chinese poor people become the master of the country. The reform and open policy started last 80s, last century, changed this. However, the law is there, the constitution is there, the party leadership is there. The party we call is Communist Party of China. And we believe socialism, we believe communism, because it is good. Especially, I think, when I have this experience in Canada, I know how precious, how lucky Chinese people are. So they know, they learned, they have their own judgment. You don't see, you don't want to mislead them, then you can't, because they are all educated through 70 years of education, practice, reality, and theory, through all kind of, mass movement. It is good for China, because they are the foundation. Nobody can shake this kind of foundation. They know some people are stealing money from China, from people. They know that, right? So that's the strength China has. It's not a military power. and the military power in China is growing too, right? And the economic power is growing too. But the most important thing is the Chinese people has been educated by the revolution, by the liberation. The liberation is of significance of world. Many people in different countries has not been so lucky. Include the people in Canada, include the people in United States, include the people in European countries, include the people in Japan, Korea, and many people has misinformed. All the education, all the media, all the research institute has made a wrong assumption based on wrong information, based on wrong judgment. You don't even have lived in China as a Chinese citizen to pass through these years of experience. How do you judge China? How do you judge Chinese people? And from 1949, China was completely ruined by the long war and the poverty and the conflicts, confrontations internally and externally, and the invasion by the Japanese and so many foreign powers. 1949, stop all this. We start a new life. That is reality. We have to admit it. We have to work with it. We probably have to learn from it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.